FY program, right? And I'm here participating is my co-host Genesis, another peer mentor. Would you like to present yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Jeanette Montanes. I'm also a peer mentor for the FYE program. Some of you might already know me because I see a few of my mentees, and that's very exciting to know that you're here today. And yeah, nice to have you here.
Yeah, awesome. I don't quite see some of my mentees. If there are some of my mentees here, so feel free to say hi in the chat. But as for that matter, we will get started with our overcoming procrastination presentation, right? So when we talk about overcoming procrastination, it is very important for us to understand what it is first, right? Like we can't go ahead and address something we don't know what it is. So for that matter, procrastination, in its essence, it's the act of delaying or putting off tasks until the last minute or past their deadline, right? So this is something you guys will very likely understand, as for example, having your homework throughout the week due on Sunday night, and then instead of having the whole week to do it, you'll push it back all the way until Sunday, and then you'll be stressing out, just trying to figure out how the hell you're gonna do all of your assignments by the last day, right? So this is something that everybody does or has experienced throughout college, and we're here to address it, right? It's very important to understand that procrastination in its essence is a habit, right? It's something that we've done repeatedly, and it's become kind of inherent in our nature. Uh, and then in order to combat it, we must replace it with another habit, right? So it's kind of like fighting fire with fire, or in this case, we're just replacing one thing with the other, right? It can happen because of a lack of self-discipline, right? So that's just essentially means that we're not taking active steps in order to combat it, right? So is this something you guys relate to? Put in the chat. What are some ways that you guys procrastinate, right? So for example, in my scenario, my biggest issue is just getting started, just trying to get started on my work. Once I'm working, I'm kind of like a train. It'll be hard to slow me down, but just getting started. So what are some ways you guys procrastinate? Put it in the chat if you're able. What about you, Genesis? Well, how are some ways that you procrastinate?
For me, I get to procrastinate a lot with video games on my cell phone. Like recently, I started playing a lot Brawl Stars. So that's something that I get to spend a lot of time on. But like always, I get to work on it. And I also get to spend a lot of time in Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I see a lot of them are agreeing with me. It's difficult to get started, or like waiting last minute, or I see you one saying pushing the class, we're away from the classes, from the classes. Oh wow, I really procrastinate over big assignments such as an easy essay or project. Yeah, Maritza, we're going to talk about that as well, such as dividing work in order to make big projects or big assignments seem smaller and more manageable. So it looks like we can see in the chat that a lot of people are having the same experience in terms of procrastination. So it's not something that's alien, and it's something we all do, right? So it's you don't feel too bad about it. Instead, we're gonna figure out how to combat it or overcome it, right? So what I would like to do is I'm going to show a video which I think really helps you visually interpret and represent procrastination, right? So put a couple thumbs up if you are able to hear this.
So in college, I had to write a lot of papers. Now, when a normal student writes a paper, they might spread the work out a little like this. And I would want to do that, but then actually the paper would come along, and then I would kind of do this. Now, I had a hypothesis that the brains of procrastinators were actually different than the brains of other people. And to test this, I found an MRI lab that actually let me scan both my brain and the brain of a proven non-procrastinator, and so I could compare them. So here's the brain of a non-procrastinator. Now, here's my brain. There is a difference. Both brains have a rational decision maker in them, but the procrastinator's brain also has an instant gratification monkey. Now, what does this mean for the procrastinator? Well, it means everything's fine until this happens. So the rational decision maker will make the rational decision to do something productive, but the monkey doesn't like that plan. So he actually takes the wheel and he says, actually, let's read the entire Wikipedia page of the Nancy Kerrigan Tanya Harding scandal because I just remembered that that happened. The instant gratification monkey does not seem like a guy you want behind the wheel. He lives entirely in the present moment. He has no memory of the past, no knowledge of the future, and he only cares about two things: easy and fun. Now, sometimes it makes sense to be doing things that are easy and fun, but other times it makes much more sense to be doing things that are harder and less pleasant for the sake of the big picture, and that's when we have a conflict. Turns out that the procrastinator has a guardian angel, someone called the panic monster. Now, the panic monster is dormant most of the time, but he suddenly wakes up anytime a deadline gets too close or there's danger of public embarrassment, a career disaster, or some other scary consequence. But there's a second kind of procrastination that happens in situations when there is no deadline. So if you want to have a career where you want to be a self-starter, something in the arts, something entrepreneurial, there's no deadlines on those things at first because nothing's happening at first, not until you've gone out and done the hard work to get some momentum, to get things going. There's also all kinds of important things outside of your career that don't involve any deadlines, like seeing your family or exercising and taking care of your health, working on your relationship or getting out of a relationship that isn't working. Now, if the procrastinator's only mechanism of doing these hard things is the panic monster, that's a problem because in all of these non-deadline situations, the panic monster doesn't show up. And it's this long-term kind of procrastination that's much less visible and much less talked about than the funnier, short-term, deadline-based kind. And it can be the source of a huge amount of long-term unhappiness and regrets. I had a little bit of an epiphany. I don't think non-procrastinators exist. That's right. I think all of you are procrastinators. Now, you might not all be a mess, like some of us, and some of you may have a healthy relationship with deadlines. But remember, the monkey's sneakiest trick is when the deadlines aren't there. And we need to think about what we're really procrastinating on, because everyone is procrastinating on something in life. That's a job for all of us. And it's a job that should probably start today. Well, maybe not today, but you know, sometime soon.
Right. So I really like this video in particular, just because, it addresses a couple points, right? So it talks a lot about, the kind of procrastination we don't necessarily address, right? Such as the procrastination with no deadlines. So that can look a lot, like perhaps planning out, your semester by semester plans, things simple as, going to the gym. A lot of people have the idea that they want to go and work out, but since there's no deadline for that, they push it, right? Another thing he mentions, like, we're all procrastinators to some sort, right? In a sense, we didn't just magically become procrastinators, right? We built up it, right? Like, the people that consider themselves to be more procrastinating than others, they built up to that, right? Because as we mentioned, it is a habit, right? It's something that slowly becomes inherent in your nature, right? So it's just for you guys to understand, procrastinating is a natural part of life. But if you're able to understand it and address it, then you can overcome it.
So in college,
There you go.
And now talking about habits, we want to talk about building habits. So just like Hami mentioned, it's something that becomes natural. A habit is something that a person does often in a regular or repeated way. So this can be like when you wake up, you drink some water, working out consistently, taking 15-minute breaks, waking up early. These are good habits. But some bad habits can be like putting work behind all the time, eating with your mouth open, sleeping 4 hours or less. So these are things that we want to change over time. We have to keep realistic expectations. You cannot expect to start working out and go with a full routine five days a week immediately. You want to start maybe like one day going to the gym, maybe one resting for a little bit, and then next day going to the gym for some cardio, and that's it. It's something that we want to do to have some progress, because probably you do a whole routine in one day when you go to the gym. you're going to wake up very sore next day, and that's going to cause it could cause you to not wanting to go to the gym again. So that's something that we want to work on with procrastination. Um, you want to start with probably breaking up work, um, checking on deadlines, working a little by little on your assignments. And something that we also want to work on is distractions. So just like how I mentioned that I get to spend a lot of time on Crunchyroll and browsers, I want to check a lot how much time I'm spending on those things. So there's going to be ups and downs, just like with everything that I just mentioned. I have to check really in detail what I'm doing with those things. Next slide. And I want you to look at this picture because about ups and downs, you can see these little hills over here. They go up and then they go down. So it's like your progress, whatever you're going to be doing, just like with anything, school, sports, any goal that you can have, it's going to have the points where, okay, I'm doing very well. And then it's going to be going down where it's going to be, okay, I messed up with this. I need to work on this thing. I want it to be fixed and I don't want to repeat this mistake. And then that's where you get to the highest point, and probably you can go a little bit higher and then reach your goal.
Yes. So as Genesis mentioned, building up habits causes up and downs, and it's not something that's automatic, right? You can't go from 0 to 100 from the start. You have to be realistic, and have to understand that you won't be perfect from the start, right? However, there are tools and skills that you can use to your disposal in order to make this process a little bit easier for yourself, right? Something I personally think is very, very helpful is setting daily goals, right? When we talk about productivity and when we talk about procrastination, something that helps us, procrastinate a lot is having, an idea that you have time, right? So like, let's give an example you guys can relate to. Let's say, it's Monday and you have 4 math assignments due on Sunday, right? So it's Monday, you're like, should I work on my math homework? Yes, but I have time, so I can leave it off to the next day, right? And then on Tuesday, you're like, I have time, so I leave it off until the next day, and so forth until it's Sunday night, and you're like, oh no, I need to do all 4 math assignments at the same time right now, right? And this is kind of what setting daily goals tries to address. By setting daily goals, you're essentially changing your deadline from Sunday to today, right? Setting daily goals will allow you to work on an area that could like attention, right? Because you're distributing your work more properly, you're being active about being productive, right? Now, it's very important to understand that your daily goals have to be realistic, manageable, and time sensitive, right? If you're setting daily goals that you're not able to accomplish that very same day, then you're just not gonna, go through with them, right? Because you're just gonna be constantly missing them if you're putting yourself under too much pressure in one day, and that makes you less likely to like further complete those goals when you set them, right? And we understand, right? When you have deadlines, there is stress involved, right? So when you're changing that deadline to today, right? That is in a sense a good stress that allows you to work efficiently, because as we saw in the video, there's the panic monster acting, right? So you're essentially controlling the panic monster to have push yourself to work efficiently, right? However, we got to understand we can't be stressed all the time, right? Otherwise, like anxiety would consume us, and that's not necessarily good for our mental health. So we got to make sure that at the end we reward yourself to release that stress, so that can come in very different scenarios, right? So for example, I personally like to use an agenda of sorts, right? So I have it right here, and in this agenda, right, I'll write down my goals, right? I'll write down my goals, and then once I'm done, I'll cross them out. So writing down the goal will give me that good stress that will make me be efficient, and then crossing it out, it's kind of like a release, right? So I don't know if you guys are able to see that, but that was my Monday goals, and you see I crossed them out, right? Now, I'm gonna have you guys, think in the chat. Maybe what's some daily a goal you could set for yourself today? You know, like, and it can be anything from academics to just personal life. So, you know, maybe doing your math homework, maybe perhaps cleaning those dishes that you've been leaving in the sink for a while, making your bed, you know, taking your dog on a walk. What kind of goals can you guys think of? What about you, Genesis? What is one goal that you would like to put for yourself today?
My goal for today is to finish my health assignment and work on some linear algebra homework.
All right, nice. My goal for today is I have to finish one math homework I had from yesterday, right? What about you guys in the chat? Like, let me know. Finish reading, taking notes in chapter 7, History 100. You see, that's you know, really good goal because it's manageable. You can finish the notes that you have been doing, right? Oh, we got a lot of people having that. My goal is to fold laundry and start a book, right? So for example, Stephanie, for your goal, when we talk about being manageable, we like to be a little bit more specific. So for example, fold your laundry is very manageable, specific, right? Well, once you finish folding your laundry, that's done, right? Now start my book, while it's definitely a good goal, is not as specific, right? So perhaps you can set it as, you know, read the first chapter of a book, right? That will make you, you know, be more productive, and it will make your you know, it'll give you a sense of achievement because you actually understand if you actually complete it or not, you know. Start a book could just be, you know, read the first page. So just whatever you want that goal to be. Study my anatomy quiz, good. Clean my room, work on midterms. Oh, a lot of people are going to be having midterms soon, so that's going to be definitely exciting for you guys. uh, Washing the dishes, taking my dog on a walk, completing some homework. So Maritza, in your case, you know, all your goals are really good. The only suggestion I will have is like completing some homework. You want to be a bit more specific so that you're sure that you're actually completing a goal. Like how many homeworks do you want to do? One assignment, two assignments, right? Again, in the end, if you overachieve, that's completely up to you. But you know, just be a little bit more specific to yourself so you're able to realize if you have. Well, I want to thank everybody for putting your ideas in the chat. But we're gonna go ahead and move on.
Writing in them. So talking about deadlines and what you have to do during the day, your goal for the day, we want to make sure that you remember what you have to accomplish during the day. So we want to set your goals and portray them basically. So it can be in a notebook, an agenda, it can be on your phone, as long as you know that you're going to be looking at it. If you're somebody that prefers to write things down on a notebook, don't write them in your phone because you're going to probably forget about them. If you're somebody like me, I basically write everything on my agenda on my phone because I tend to either kind of misplace the notebooks I have. I tend to forget about them, or even I get to skip a few pages because, oh, I will use these pages for this thing. And then I forget about it and lose it. And then 2 weeks later, I found it. You want to avoid that. And you can use, like how I mentioned, an agenda, a notebook. You can use sticky notes if that is something that you want to have in front of you, like in your computer. You can use probably an app or something in your computer as well. Um, you can use any things that you know that will work for you and that will fit to your needs in this case. And you can have some fun and be creative. You can use color coding. When I have very important things that, like a doctor appointment or a dentist appointment, or I have this essay due in 2 days and I need to finish it. I use to color it because it's very urgent. If it's something that, like a class I have to go, but it's kind of like something that I do usually, I put it in yellow. If it is like a birthday, I put it either on blue or green because those are like, okay, this is something important, but I will receive a notification about it in a week before it happens. So that's how pretty much how I get to play with color coding. If somebody wants to say what methods you like to remember your assignments, or if you do use color coding, you can give a thumbs up on Zoom. It will be really great to know ways that you like to remember your assignments. Okay, I see Akela, I believe. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I
Okay.
personally stick to simple writing them down because I feel like I don't have the creativity uh you know, do all the colors and stuff. Though I do understand, you know, even maybe perhaps you're not an artist per se, you can still use color coding, right? My agenda has, you know, little post-it notes that I like to use every once in a while to get stuff a little bit more organized in my head, right? Uh, but yeah, all right, let's go ahead.
Then making priorities. So making priorities is something very important for your assignments. Saying no to events is going to be something that is going to be very common in your college life, and also hanging out with friends and even sometimes family. Like that wedding that is going to be happening in 1 month, probably you're going to have two exams happening. You're going to have to say no sometimes. There can be sometimes some toxic friendships, even with family as well, that they're going to make you feel guilty, but you know, you have to keep your priorities. School is going to be your number one priority unless you're working, and that's your priority instead. But in this case, school is your priority, your assignments, your exams, your midterms that many of us are going to be having pretty soon. So we want to make sure that we have time for those things. um if you're having struggles like myself with video games, I want to work on making school my priority again. And that is something that I like to do with these kind of things, where I get to be distracted a lot by apps, games, or even shows. I get to delete the apps on my phone. I will delete them. I make sure that I save my progress, and once I'm done with either my exams or I'm on spring break that is going to be happening pretty soon, I get to download them again, have some fun, make sure that I do my homework, and then once I go back to school, I delete them again, and then next break I'm going to download it again. So I don't have to worry about, okay, I have to do the homework, but it is also happening over here. I don't want them to be crashing with each other, basically. Um, Something that also gets to happen a lot, if you're somebody that gets to struggle a lot with your phone and what's happening in social media, what's happening probably on your messages, you can move your phone out of sight, turn it off, put it on silence, so it doesn't distract you, or you don't feel that urge of looking at your phone and see what's happening. And of course, you have to set boundaries at home. It is very common. This is something that I get to hear a lot from my friends. That they were in class during the pandemic. They were in class, and um, most of the professors wanted us to have our cameras on, and then their mom was sweeping behind the Zoom. So we want to set some boundaries because we want to be able to concentrate in class. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Jaime, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, making priorities is something, you know, I got to make sure I balance, you know, being of course peer mentor, that's part of my job, and of course taking 16 units. So being making priorities is also very important for you to make sure that you are focusing on what matters the most to you, right? And you know, it's kind of like a pyramid. It goes goes from whatever is your top priority all the way down, right? Maybe it's good to kind of prioritize, like you want to prioritize more time to your friends or time to your family. It goes on all levels, right? So I think Genesis makes a really good point here. Um, but something that I feel like really helps with procrastination as well is changing your scenery, right? Now, of course, we are in the middle of a pandemic still, you know, even though things are going back a little bit back to normal, especially after that Omicron just showed us, you know, you never know when we're going to get back locked out, you know, like with, you know, COVID regulations coming back in and out. Stuff is very unpredictable. However, changing your scenery can be very easy, and it can help you find you know, work and find yourself in move yourself from a place that you might be too relaxed in and where you would often be distracted. So for example, right now I'm sitting here at my desk. but not too far away from me, I have my bed right there. So I'm constantly here feeling the, the temptation to go and just lay on my bed and go to sleep, instead of doing my work here on my desk, right? So for people that are, don't feel comfortable with going outside, changing your scenery can be as simple as, moving from your bed to your desk, or just moving out of your bedroom, going perhaps to your kitchen, studying there, or, if you have a patio, studying your patio, like just moving around to a place where you're not necessarily as relaxed, in where you would be more prone to perhaps picking up your phone and going on Instagram or something, right? Uh, However, you can also move out of your house into spaces where other people are working in order to get motivation. I find that personally, that I get, motivation when I see people around me that are working, because I feel like kind of like that social pressure is like, oh, I should get working as well instead of lounging around. So a good example of this is going to a cafe, where a lot of, like Starbucks, a lot of people tend to work there on their computers, or perhaps going to campus. I've been going back to campus, have in-person classes. I don't know if you guys do as well. Put in the chat if you want. But I go to class, and then I tend to go just study on a little table, and I have all the other students also studying, and I feel more productive. I feel like I'm 80% more productive when I'm outside working on campus, right? Now, however, this changes from people to from person to person, right? So where whatever scenery works the best for you is just for you to be for you to recognize that their scenery affects your productivity.
Breaking up work. So this is something that I mentioned very briefly on building habits, but breaking up work means that you have an essay, you don't want to start working on it a day before, and you're going to have to do all this work, doing the research, finding a good title, looking at how it has to be organized, you're going to cite your sources and making sure that your grammar is okay. You want to make sure that you break up the work during different days. So like, for example, if you have a week, you want to like, oh, today I'm going to be looking at articles where I can do my research for this essay. Tomorrow I will start having some drafts to see how I build my introduction, my body paragraph, my conclusion, and so on. So you want to make sure that you break up work, and even just like when after you do your research, you can also do like, oh, I have um I have to do my homework. I will make sure that I do one section today, or at least this amount of questions, and probably a little bit of studying for this assignment, because I feel that I'm lacking some skills in this assignment. So you want to break out work, so it can make your daily goals manageable, so they don't feel very difficult, and over time it makes you feel that it doesn't feel that it's impossible to meet your goals. This can also allow time for questions. So just like, some professors don't answer on weekends. So you have questions about that essay, you want to make sure that you do it during the week. So you have like question like, oh, where can I find primary resources for this essay? Oh, you can find it in this website over here in the school website. You just have to go to the library and look for resources. So let's say if you leave your homework for the end, probably your professor is going to answer you by Monday, and surprise, your essay is due by Sunday. But yeah, don't overburden yourself and do more work than you set out for yourself. So basically, like for me, I know that for math, I can do probably at most 2 sections in one day if they're like very easy. And I'm going to be already very tired. I don't want to do 3 sections, because that will be for me like, okay, I will be tired for the whole week now. So you want to set the boundary with you as well, that you want to do this amount of homework and you can only do this amount of homework. Balancing time. Balancing time is something very important, because we want to make sure that we put time for ourselves. If you have been working very hard doing a whole week for your homework, probably you want to dedicate some time during the weekend, or maybe even about an hour for yourself. It can be watching the show that you really like, watching the movie that you haven't wanted to watch the whole month, um, playing a little bit, and not worry too much about the homework. So this is what I like to call me time. Me time is time to treat yourself. It can be doing something fun that you like. It can be even taking some sort of break between your assignments. Like, okay, I have been working for about an hour. I will take a 15-minute break, go for a walk, walk with my dog, um, just watching some videos, or just taking a short nap. It can be any of those things, as long as you feel relaxed. You're somebody like me that loses track of time sometimes. You can set an alarm and be like, okay, I will set the timer 15 minutes, and once the alarm goes on, I will go back to do homework. And that's how you're going to be able to keep track of your mental health. You will not feel overwhelmed about college, and you will feel that you're doing a lot of progress in your goal.
Right. So when we talk about balancing time, right, we tend to intake study time as part of that balance, right? But how do you determine how much study time you're supposed to take, right? So a good measurement to do this is actually to multiply the amount of units you're enrolled in by two, and that will give you kind of a guideline of how many hours per week you're supposed to be dedicating to school, right? In other words, study time, right? So this simple, like equation can be very helpful when you're just trying to figure out, okay, around how much time do I actually need to be dedicating to school, which can be very subjective at times, right? So even though, for example, if we look at here, we would say 6 units times 2 equals 12 hours per week. Some people might need more hours per week, or might need less. It is also really has some subjectivity to it. People might be more efficient or less efficient, right? Uh, but you can see how quickly, a lot of times we're taking 12 units, you don't consider, 24 hours per week, right? Or 15 units, 30 hours per week. So I'm in this range right now where, a lot of my week time is spent on doing my homework assignments, studying for my exams. And you kind of see that when we talk about scheduling. But very important for you guys to kind of recognize how much study time you're supposed to take, right? Another big one is, for example, scheduling, right? Scheduling is a great tool to overcome procrastination, because when we talk about managing your time and, being balanced, scheduling will give you a good way to put your tasks and goals in a format that visually represents your time. What does that mean? So instead of thinking, oh, I have to do, have to go to 3 classes, have to do 2 homework assignments, instead of just having that in your head where you can't really see it, you're going to be able to visually have like a play where you're going to see your time. How much time do I actually have in a day, and can I complete everything I set for myself in that day, right? Now, scheduling can help you understand whether you have a lot of time left or not, right? Because sometimes we tend to think like, I don't have enough time today to do stuff, or we tend to think we have all the time in the world, and that might not necessarily be true. So once we have that schedule, we're able to like confirm it, right? So we're going to take a look into what my schedule looks like, and it's kind of broken down, and I'll explain it as we go. But when I do my schedule, something I like to do is have separate calendars. So on the top left, you'll be able to see different colors. Some of them that say home, school, work, homework, etc. Right? So these different calendars are set for different things. So the home schedule, in essence, it's me recognizing that there's things that I do, just routinely that take up time. Like, for example, getting ready. It's unrealistic for me to think that if I wake up at 7 a.m., I'm gonna be, get ready to go to school at 7:15. We recognize that the morning takes time. You gotta wake up, get dressed, have breakfast, shower. Whatever you do in your morning, that's stuff that you're gonna have to get done, right? So we have the same thing for like cooking. Cooking is just me acknowledging that eating takes time. You can't just instantly be, like full and nutrition, right? You have to cook or go buy food, whatever you decide to do, and then you have to eat, and that takes time, right? After that, what I like to add is my school schedule. These are set schedules that happen all the time, right? For example, I have my English class, or I have my Math 72 class. This is from last semester, right? Uh, and having this set will start to fill in your week, and you'll start to be able to see, okay, where do I have time in my day, right? Furthermore, we then add a work schedule. If you guys work, well, that's something that's going to take up time in your week. You're starting to see that, perhaps maybe I don't have as much time as I thought throughout my day, right? So you start to see all the spots where you're gonna have time to do stuff. uh, and lastly, what this is the most, the one that changes the most, is a homework schedule, in which you assign time, for example, for your daily goals. So as I mentioned before, let's say you write your daily goal on Monday, right, to do your accounting homework, right? Well, you have to designate time for you to do that accounting homework. So as you can see, even I'm not perfect, and on Monday I could have definitely done my accounting homework way early in the day, right? But we are not perfect, and we procrastinate a little bit sometimes. But I still, scheduled and make sure that I did do my accounting homework that day, right? So after my math class, went to play some a little bit of volleyball, and then got on with my homework. So that kind of stuff is something that's going to help you visually represent your activities through time. Now we have Genesis example, of course.
So for my calendar, I have pretty much what I had to do during September. You can see that I have my classes, I have my work schedule, I have some holidays over there, and also have, like how you see on the 20th, I have my friend's birthday. That is very urgent because I always forget about birthdays. I'm very bad with names and dates. So that's something I want to really remember and don't forget about it. So my friend doesn't feel bad. But yeah, next month, October, I also have a couple of birthdays. Nothing has changed a lot. Pretty similar. It's going to be almost the same for November. As you can see, the same thing, more holidays, those are automatic. And yeah, December is going to be a little bit more different because that's when we went over winter break. And you can see that I have, like, on the 21st, I have testings. That's something that I really wanted to remember because I was going to have my doctor's appointment. And as you can see, I had mostly, this month I have most of the time free because we were already in vacation. So something that I wanted really to do during December was really get a good rest, because after a very stressed semester, we deserve some rest sometimes. So yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. All right, guys. So that is kind of what our tools and skills that we're talking about for procrastination. So I'm gonna have you guys, ask some questions with regards, perhaps, what do you recommend for, scheduling, to recommend doing that stuff in person, anything of that sort. Make sure you put it in the chat. Do you guys have any questions? Of course, feel free to unmute as well and ask that question, or raise your hand. If not, if there aren't any questions, what I would like you guys to do is kind of put in practice what we discussed today, right? So you guys went ahead and started doing your, okay, so I'll get to your question in a bit. You guys started to, set your daily goal, for example, right? So kind of what I'm gonna have you guys do is, have the daily goal that you mentioned in the chat before, and write it down on paper, right? Make sure that, like, we talk about the importance of writing stuff down, such as what I do with my agenda, right? So make sure you get to do that. As to your question, Iwan Toledo, what is the best scheduling website app we can use? That really depends upon yourself. Most of them will work, right? Mainly what I look for in terms of an app is just that you are able to kind of repeat, yeah, some activities, right? So for example, I'll actually share my current schedule, so you can see, and you can see what I mean. But you just want to make sure that you have capabilities for repeating weekly events. And essentially what that means is that you're not having to write, I have class on Tuesday at 8:30 like every single week, because that can get kind of tedious. You have any recommendations for that matter, Genesis?
For me, I like to keep it simple. I use Google Calendar, and that's pretty much it. But I know that you can look for different calendars, either on Play Store if you have an Android phone, or Apple Store, and look for something that looks something more, how can I say it, eye appealing, because sometimes we go more towards aesthetic. So it is just preference. You can do some testing to see if some app works for you and which one doesn't work for you.
Definitely. All right. Well, before you guys leave, one last thing is we want to make sure that, we want to get a picture with all you guys for today's presentation, because we want to make sure we share it as the end of year celebration for the FYE program. So I really appreciate it for you guys. If you haven't turned on your camera, do so just for the picture right now. I'll give you a couple of minutes, right? Just for the picture. So we can just say hi, and see those smiles in that picture, right? So if you guys are able, really appreciate it. We'll go a little bit more for the rest of you guys that are a little bit shyer, to turn on your camera and get ready for that picture.
Thank you, everybody that is turning on your cameras. And just to let everybody know as well, I sent a PDF in the chat. You will be able to find a little bit summarize the points that we talk in the presentation and the resources that we use for this presentation. All right, so I will go ahead and take the picture. All right, so
count us down.
3, 2, 1. Okay. There it is.
Thank you very much for everybody for turning on their camera. It was lovely having you guys here. Hopefully you learned something and you're able to procrastinate a little bit less. But we'll really like to thank you for guys for participating and being so active in the chat, right? Lastly, if you guys are leaving, make sure that you submit your workshop verification on the FWay Canvas, right? If anybody doesn't know how to do it, make sure you can ask us right now. But make sure you submit your verification so you can get credit for today's workshop, and you can get that done from your responsibilities of being in the FY program. But in any case, thank you very much for you guys for joining. We loved having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.